It was nearly midnight when Armin wiped sweat from his forehead and glanced at the glowing screen above the counter. The small pizza shop, Night Slice, was almost empty now. The neon sign outside flickered red against the quiet street, and the hum of the refrigerator was louder than the soft music playing in the background. He had already cleaned his delivery bag and was about to clock out when the printer suddenly whirred to life. One last order. Armin groaned quietly. His shift had already stretched longer than usual, and his legs ached from climbing apartment stairs all evening. He walked over and tore the receipt from the machine. 3 large pepperoni pizzas. Cash payment. No contact number. Just an address far beyond the old highway district, nearly at the edge of town. And a short note printed at the bottom. Come alone. He stared at the words for a moment, waiting for a punchline that never came. Maybe it was meant to be funny. Some customers liked to joke around. Still, something about it felt strange. Why even write that? Deliveries were always done by one person anyway. Everything okay? His manager called from the back. Yeah, Armin replied quickly, folding the receipt. Just the last delivery. He boxed the pizzas carefully, sliding them into his insulated bag. The smell of melted cheese and spices filled the air, warm and comforting. Normally, that smell made him hungry. Tonight, it made his stomach uneasy. Outside, the city felt different at this hour. The usual traffic was gone, replaced by empty roads and distant barking dogs. He started his motorbike and pulled into the street, the engine's sound echoing louder than usual in the stillness. As he drove farther from town, the streetlights became fewer. Shops turned into abandoned warehouses, and warehouses turned into open fields. The sky above was clouded, hiding the moon. Only his headlight cut through the darkness ahead. He checked the address again at a red light. It led down a gravel road branching off the highway, an area he had never delivered to before. The wind grew colder as he turned onto that road. Trees lined both sides, their branches bending like shadows reaching toward him. In the distance, he finally saw it, a single house standing alone. No nearby homes. No cars parked outside. Just one faint light glowing from an upstairs window. Armin swallowed hard and slowed his bike. For the first time since starting this job, he felt something he couldn't explain. A quiet voice inside him whispered to turn back. The front door creaked open before Armin even had the chance to knock properly. The sound was slow and heavy, like the house itself was breathing. He froze on the doorstep, the warm pizza bag clutched tightly in his hands. Standing in the doorway was the same tall, thin man he had glimpsed through the cracked door earlier. Up close, he looked even stranger. His skin was pale in a way that didn't seem natural, almost gray under the dim yellow porch light. His eyes were wide and unblinking, reflecting the light in a dull, glassy way. "You're late," the man said softly. Armin blinked in confusion and checked his watch. He wasn't late. In fact, he was 5 minutes early. "Sorry if there was traffic, sir," he replied politely. "That will be 4,500 rupees. The man didn't respond immediately. He simply stared at Armin for a few long seconds, as if studying him. Then a thin smile stretched across his face. It wasn't friendly. It looked forced, like someone imitating what a smile should be. "Come inside," the man whispered. "I'll get the money." Armin hesitated. Company rules clearly stated, never enter a customer's house. Deliver at the door. Take payment, leave. Simple. But the wind behind him suddenly picked up, cold and sharp, pushing against his back. The trees along the gravel road rustled loudly, and for a moment, the darkness behind him felt heavier than the dim light inside the house. He stepped in. The door shut behind him with a loud click. The smell hit him immediately. It was thick and sour, clinging to the air. Not the usual scent of an old house or damp wood. This was different. Rotten. Heavy. It made his stomach tighten. The hallway was narrow, with faded wallpaper peeling from the corners. Framed photographs lined the walls from floor to ceiling. Armin glanced at them while trying not to breathe too deeply. Every single photo showed the same man. But he wasn't alone. In each picture, he stood beside a pizza delivery boy. Different uniforms. Different faces. Some smiling nervously. Some looking confused. The pale man's expression, however, was always the same. Wide eyes. Thin smile. Armin's heartbeat quickened. "Sir," he called carefully. "Upstairs." The man's voice floated down from somewhere in the house. As Armin moved toward the staircase, he noticed something that made his throat go dry. Stacked along the corner of the hallway were pizza boxes. Dozens of them. All from Night Slice. All covered in dust. Armin's fingers trembled as he tightened his grip on the pizza bag. The air upstairs felt heavier, harder to breathe, as if the house itself didn't want him there. The dust-covered pizza boxes were stacked against the wall in messy towers, some crushed, some still sealed. He slowly stepped closer and brushed his fingers across one of them. A thick layer of dust smeared under his touch. These boxes weren't from yesterday. They weren't from last week. They were old. Very old. A cold realization crept into his mind. If these deliveries had been made, why were the boxes still here? A floorboard creaked behind him. He turned sharply. The pale man stood at the end of the hallway, half hidden in shadow. The dim overhead bulb flickered above him, casting uneven light across his face. His smile had faded now. His mouth hung slightly open, as if he were breathing too heavily. "You noticed," the man said quietly. Armin forced himself to speak calmly. "Sir, I just need the payment. I have other deliveries." It was a lie, but it was the only thing he could think of. The man tilted his head slowly to one side. The movement was unnatural, almost mechanical. "You always say that," he whispered. Before Armin could react, the hallway lights suddenly went out. Darkness swallowed everything. For a split second, there was complete silence. Then came the sound of slow footsteps. Not rushing, not running, just steady, deliberate, coming closer. Armin's heart slammed against his chest. He fumbled for his phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness in a thin line. The hallway looked longer now, stretched and distorted by shadows. "Sir," he called, but his voice cracked. No answer. Instead, a soft dragging sound echoed from somewhere behind him. He stepped backward and felt his heel hit something. He glanced down. A dark stain covered the wooden floor. It looked almost black in the weak light. The beam of his phone followed the stain as it trailed down the hallway, leading to a slightly open door at the far end. The basement door. From inside, he heard it. A faint, shaky breathing. Not the calm breathing of someone sleeping. The desperate breathing of someone afraid. Armin swallowed hard. Every instinct told him to run. But his legs felt rooted to the floor. Slowly, carefully, he approached the door and pushed it open wider. The flashlight revealed a narrow staircase descending into darkness. The smell from downstairs was unbearable now, stronger, fouler. Then he heard it clearly. A weak voice. "Help me." Armin's blood turned cold. Armin's body moved before his mind could catch up. The word help echoed in his head as he rushed down the basement stairs two at a time. The wooden steps groaned under his weight, and the beam from his phone shook wildly in his trembling hand. The air below was damp and suffocating, thick with the rotten smell that now burned his throat. The basement floor was concrete, stained dark in several places. Against the far wall, chained to a rusted metal pipe, sat a young man in a faded pizza delivery uniform. His face was pale, his lips dry and cracked. His eyes squinted against the sudden light. "Please," the chained man whispered weakly. "He keeps them, he keeps us." Armin's heart pounded painfully in his chest. He rushed forward and dropped to his knees, examining the chain. It was heavy, thick iron wrapped tightly around the pipe and secured with a solid lock. "I'll get you out," Armin said, though he had no idea how. A slow clap echoed from the top of the stairs. Both of them froze. Armin slowly turned his head. The pale man stood there, silhouetted in the darkness above. His wide eyes reflected the faint light from the hallway. His thin smile had returned, but this time it stretched unnaturally far across his face. "You shouldn't interfere," the man said calmly. Armin stood up quickly, placing himself between the chained boy and the staircase. "You're sick," he shouted. "I'm calling the police." The pale man laughed softly. It wasn't loud, but it was wrong. It echoed strangely, bouncing off the basement walls like a sound that didn't belong in a human throat. "You all say that," he replied. Suddenly, the basement light flickered on, revealing the full horror around them. Scattered across the floor were delivery bags, helmets, and torn uniforms. Some were stained dark. In one corner, a pile of bones lay half-covered with old pizza boxes. Armin's stomach twisted violently. The man stepped down one stair, then another. "Slow. Patient. There is something special about delivery boys," he whispered. "You always come when called." Armin's breathing became sharp and uneven. He grabbed a broken wooden plank from the floor and held it tightly, like a weapon. "Stay back," he shouted. The man descended further, his movements jerky now, unnatural, as if his body bent in ways it shouldn't. His jaw slowly opened wider than humanly possible. The chained boy began crying softly behind Armin. The pale man's voice deepened into something monstrous. "Dinner is getting cold." The moment the creature lunged forward, Armin swung the wooden plank with all the strength he had left. It struck the side of the pale man's head with a sharp crack. The sound echoed violently through the basement. The creature stumbled sideways, hitting the concrete wall, but instead of collapsing like a normal person would, it straightened slowly. Its head tilted at an impossible angle. Then it smiled. Armin didn't wait for a second attack. He dropped the plank and rushed toward the staircase. Behind him, he heard the chains rattle as the trapped delivery boy screamed, begging him not to leave. The sound tore through Armin's chest, but survival instinct was louder. He sprinted up the stairs. The creature's footsteps followed, not fast, not running, but steady and confident, as if it knew he couldn't escape. Armin burst into the hallway and looked around wildly. The front door was still locked. He twisted the handle desperately. It wouldn't budge. The windows were sealed tight, their glass too thick to break with his bare hands. A shadow stretched across the wall behind him. It was coming. Thinking quickly, Armin grabbed one of the stacked pizza boxes and hurled it toward the kitchen. The distraction bought him seconds. He rushed toward the living room, spotting a heavy chair near a window. With shaking hands, he lifted it and smashed it against the glass. The first strike cracked it. The second shattered it completely. Cold night air rushed inside as the creature let out a shriek so loud it felt like it pierced his ears. The sound was no longer human. It was deep, hungry, furious. Armin climbed through the broken window, cutting his arm on sharp glass. He hit the gravel outside hard but scrambled to his feet instantly. Behind him, the creature's silhouette appeared in the shattered frame, its wide eyes glowing in the darkness. It didn't chase him. It simply watched, smiling. Armin ran without looking back. He ran through the gravel road, through the trees, ignoring the branches that scratched his face. His lungs burned, and his legs felt like they would collapse at any moment, but fear pushed him forward. When he finally reached the highway, headlights from a passing truck illuminated the road. The house behind him looked smaller now, almost distant. He blinked. For a split second, he could swear the house flickered. And then, it was gone. Only an empty field remained under the dark sky. Armin stood frozen in the middle of the road, shaking uncontrollably, realizing one terrifying truth. Some deliveries are not meant to be completed, and some customers are not human.